The Empire's mistake. The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. It had crushed thousands of worlds, enslaved billions of species, and wiped out anyone who dared to say no. To the Empire, Earth was just another backward planet spinning around a yellow star. Nothing special, nothing dangerous, nothing worth a second thought. But Earth did something the Empire did not expect. It refused. When the Emperor's high command sent their message, a simple demand echoed across Earth's satellites: kneel or be destroyed. Earth's answer was short, only 7 words: "We were wondering when you'd come." The Empire's council laughed. They called Earth primitive, a joke, a mud ball full of arrogant monkeys. So they sent a scout fleet small, just 20 ships to show power, to scare Earth into submission. Those ships never returned. No distress signal, no debris, just silence. The Empire didn't worry. They thought maybe the fleet had a systems glitch. So they sent more ships, 50 this time. They too vanished. Still, the Empire did not fear. They thought it was coincidence, a trick, a space anomaly. But Earth was not afraid. Earth was not panicking. Earth was smiling. On Earth, people kept living their lives. But deep underground, something was moving. Old bunkers that hadn't been touched in decades lit up. Massive machines began humming. Artificial intelligence systems blinked, awake, and started speaking in cold mechanical voices. Threat level. Empire detected. Protocol rebirth initiated. High above. Earth's moon wasn't just rock and dust. A massive structure opened slowly, revealing what looked like an orbital shipyard, hidden from telescopes, shielded from scans, and now awake. The Empire finally noticed something strange. There were no broadcasts from Earth. No signals, no distress calls, no communication, not even entertainment or radio waves. It was like Earth had gone dark. Alien spies on Earth stopped reporting. Some were captured, others just disappeared. The Empire's commanders got their first warning. Earth is not what we thought. One young general, fresh from training, asked a question no one wanted to answer. What if Earth wanted this war? He was laughed out of the room, but his question hung in the air like smoke. What if Earth had been preparing for this moment? In the shadows of the solar system, Earth's deep space probes began waking. Satellites parked behind planets turned slowly toward the stars. Weapons that had never been tested activated silently. And regular humans kept going to work, kept drinking coffee, kept smiling, because Earth had been waiting. Not for peace, but for this exact day. The day someone would come knocking on its door with war in their heart, and Earth would finally get to open the door. The Empire didn't know that Earth had been building in secret. While the galaxy mocked them, Earth had learned, adapted, upgraded. Its history was full of wars. Civil wars, world wars, cold wars, trade wars, cyber wars. Earth had survived all of them, and every war had made humanity smarter, faster, stronger. This time, it wasn't a world war, it was a star war. And Earth smiled like it had been waiting, because it had. The Empire didn't understand the silence. To them, silence meant fear. But to Earth, silence meant readiness. It meant the countdown had already started. In the heart of Antarctica, a HFY. Massive doors slid open beneath the ice. A black triangular ship lifted from the shadows, surrounded by drones. Engines burned blue as it rose silently into the sky. No broadcast, no message, no warning. Just action. In Earth orbit, cloaked satellites received a single command: stand by Phase 1. The Empire had made a mistake. They thought Earth was asleep. They thought Earth was weak. They didn't know that. Earth had been quiet, not because it feared war, but because it had never stopped preparing for it. Somewhere deep in space, a whisper traveled from one satellite to another. The signal was ancient coded during Earth's first lunar landing. It had only one purpose: begin, and so it began, not with noise, Not with a bang, but with silence, the kind of silence that comes before a storm. The kind of silence that only Earth knows how to keep. The Empire had declared war, and Earth grinned like it had been waiting. Humanity's hidden arsenal, the Galactic Empire, couldn't understand it. They had scanned Earth from orbit. No advanced starships. No interstellar communication. No planetary shields. To them, Earth looked vulnerable, outdated, almost laughable. But that was the trick. Earth wanted to look weak. While alien generals watched the blue and green planet from far away, they couldn't see what was hidden underneath, because Earth's weapons were not on the surface. They were deep buried in rock. In oceans, in space itself, the Empire searched Earth's orbit, but saw nothing. No warships, no defense stations, just civilian satellites, weather systems, and junk. But some of those junk satellites were not junk at all. They were part of Earth's secret web hundreds of years ago. Humanity had stopped trusting peace. It had learned that peace is only safe when it is protected by power. So while the world argued over money and borders, a quiet agreement had formed. Behind the scenes, the nations of Earth built something together, out of fear, out of wisdom, a secret defense system called the Vault. The Vault wasn't a place, it was a plan, a series of hidden AIs, bunkers, and weapons scattered all over. The planet and beyond, invisible to alien scans, unbreakable by cyber attacks. Each piece designed to stay silent unless Earth was threatened. And now, Earth had been threatened on Mars. What looked like mining colonies were actually launch pads. On the dark side of the moon, massive cannons sat behind mirrors that bent. Light, under the Pacific Ocean, an entire fleet of stealth submarines powered up. Their black hulls shimmered with adaptive armor. And far beyond Pluto's orbit, human sleeper cruisers turned slowly toward the stars. They had waited in darkness for almost a century. Now they had orders. Inside Earth's command centers, generals didn't shout. They whispered. Every movement was careful, calculated. War was not chaos here. It was a science. A science humanity had perfected through history. The Empire tried. Again, to make contact, they sent another message. This is your last chance. But Earth didn't reply. It didn't need to. In Africa, a massive facility came alive. Its core reactor heated up for the first time in 50 years. The skies above the Sahara opened, and from the dust rose Obsidian Wing, a stealth aircraft the size of a stadium, black as space, silent as death, from Earth's poles to its cities. Deep systems activated. Satellites began blinking in strange rhythms codes only Earth's military understood. Schools kept teaching, buses kept running. The world stayed calm because Earth had trained for this moment. Not through panic, but through discipline. Earth's greatest strength was not its weapons. It was its patience. While the Empire celebrated early victory, Earth had never even begun to fight, because Earth doesn't fight for pride. It fights for survival, and it does not lose in low Earth orbit. A strange object floated past an alien recon ship. It looked like a broken drone, harmless, drifting until it blinked red and then exploded. The blast didn't destroy the ship, but it blinded its sensors and infected its systems with a virus. In seconds, the recon ship spun out of control. Crashing into another, the Empire began to worry. Their ships couldn't get clear data from Earth. Something was jamming them, but they couldn't find the source. One commander shouted, "It's like the planet itself is fighting back." He was right, because Earth was no longer just a world. It was a fortress, and its guardians were awake. The AI systems in Earth's core bunkers spoke in calm tones, confirming planetary readiness. Stage 2 initiated. Tracking enemy fleet positions. Calculating responses. Humanity is not to be underestimated. In deep space, aboard the star cruiser Worgen, Captain Aria Monroe stood with her arms behind her back. She looked at the star map glowing before her. Each red dot was an Empire ship. She smiled, just a little. "They're too close," she said. "Good." She pressed a single button, and across the system, hidden weapons turned toward the stars. Lasers, railguns, particle disruptors, EMP shells technology. So advanced the Empire had never seen it before. All of it hidden, all of it waiting. Until now, Earth didn't need to shout. It didn't need to threaten. It simply prepared. Because the Galactic Empire had made one mistake, they thought Earth was alone. But Earth was ready. And now, the galaxy would learn why no one wakes a sleeping human giant. First contact, first regret. They didn't come to fight. Not this time. The Empire believed Earth could still be frightened, so they sent a diplomatic cruiser, shining gold and silver, its emblem glowing in royal red. It was called Majesty's. Voice, a symbol of peace but backed by power. Inside it were the Empire's finest diplomats, dressed in robes stitched with starlight. They were trained to tame worlds with words, and they truly believed Earth would kneel once they spoke. As the cruiser entered Earth's orbit, it sent out a message in all known galactic languages. Representatives of the Empire seek peaceful resolution. We demand your surrender for your own safety. There was no reply, just silence. Then something moved in the dark, a glint near the moon, just a flicker. The Empire's cruiser scanned. It looked like debris, maybe a frozen satellite. But before they could adjust course, the object split into dozens of tiny drones, each one the size of a human hand. They latched onto the cruiser's hull without a sound. Inside Majesty's voice, alarms started to scream. Screens went black, systems crashed, engines shut down. In less than 60 seconds, the entire cruiser was dead in space, floating helplessly. Above the planet it had come to tame. Then a message appeared, but it didn't come in a language. It came in a single image, a smile, a human smile. Sharp, cold, confident. The Empire was confused. No weapons fired, no soldiers attacked. Yet their ship was completely disabled. Earth had shown power, not destruction, a warning, not war. The diplomats tried to send a distress signal, but their communications were jammed. And when they looked down at Earth, the clouds moved, revealing something massive rising from the Pacific Ocean. It wasn't a building, it wasn't a ship. It was both a mobile sea fortress, rising from the water like a metal mountain, covered in moving panels, blinking lights, and rail cannons the size of towers. Its name etched in black steel. Titan. Protocol. Back in the Empire, the High Command watched everything. The live feed from the cruiser had been hijacked by Earth, broadcasted across the galactic network. Every empire, every species, every system saw it. The Empire tried to shut it down, but it was too late. The galaxy had seen Earth's message, and it was not a message of surrender. It was a message of confidence. We are awake now. The diplomats aboard Majesty's voice were finally allowed to speak to Earth, but they didn't speak from a position of power anymore. Now they were begging. We seek peaceful relations. One of them said, shaking. The reply came from an unknown human voice, cold and calm. You already declared war, remember? Then the connection cut. The cruiser was gently pushed by a soft wave of energy, sending it back toward space, alive but humiliated. Not destroyed, but dismantled without effort. The Empire now realized this was not a war of ships. It was war of minds, and Earth was playing at a level they didn't understand. All across the galaxy, planets whispered. Some cheered in secret, hoping Earth would break the Empire. Others watched in fear, wondering what humanity would do next. The Galactic Council, once silent, called an emergency meeting. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire had been made to look small, and it wasn't by a superpower. It was by a single planet that had never left its system. In Earth's skies, new ships appeared. Unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. They didn't roar. They didn't shine. They moved like shadows. blending with stars, wrapped in stealth fields. The Phantom-class cruisers, designed for deep space strikes. Now they hovered above Earth, waiting, watching, hunters, not defenders. And still, Earth didn't strike first. Because Earth was not afraid, it was preparing quietly, completely, down below, on the edge of a desert base. A young soldier looked at the stars through a visor. He smiled. They thought we'd beg. He whispered. They thought wrong. Asterisk the battle of Jupiter's shadow Jupiter. The giant of the solar system had always been silent. Its massive storms never cared for war or peace. But now something stirred beneath its shadow. A storm was coming not of wind, but of fire and metal. The Empire had lost patience. Their scout fleets had vanished. Their diplomats had failed. And worst of all, Earth had made them look weak in front of the entire galaxy. The Emperor's pride bled into rage, so he gave a new order. Crush them. 5,000 warships, dark like midnight, entered the solar system. They were the finest the Empire had. Carriers, destroyers, dreadnoughts, harvesters, and Scorcher-class ships. Together, they formed a ring of death. Beyond Mars, the fleet moved forward, slow but unstoppable. They didn't see Earth as a threat anymore. They saw it as a stain that needed to be erased. But Earth didn't flinch. It didn't launch a single ship, not even one missile. The world stayed quiet. Almost too quiet. And that silence made the Empire nervous. As they passed Jupiter's orbit, the stars around them seemed to shift. One commander looked at his sensor display and frowned. Something's wrong, he said. Their ships were losing radar lock. Their comms were flickering. Their AI guidance systems were misaligned. They thought it was a malfunction, but it wasn't. It was a trap. From Jupiter's shadow, they emerged Earth's secret fleet. They weren't painted in gold or glowing in neon. They were black, shaped like arrows, with edges sharp as blades. The Ghost Fleet, silent, deadly, human. Each human warship was built with one purpose: destruction without warning. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't demand surrender. They just fired. The first Empire dreadnought exploded in complete silence. One railgun shot precise. Clean, final. Then another ship went dark. Then another. No alarms. No grand space battle music. Just the cold dance of death in the stars. The Empire panicked. They returned fire, but hit nothing. The Ghost Fleet had already moved. They weren't. Just faster. They were invisible. Human ships hid inside energy waves, slipped through radar shadows. They used the gravity of Jupiter to jump from angle to angle. The enemy couldn't keep up. Empire formations shattered, and with every second, more ships disappeared from there. Maps, the high commander of the fleet, screamed into his comms. Where are they? But no one had answers. All they had were explosions and silence. Above Jupiter's swirling storms, a new kind of human ship appeared, twice the size of an Empire cruiser. Its hull curved like a predator's claw. It moved with grace and hunger. The humans called it Nemesis. The Empire called it death. Nemesis didn't fire 1,000 shots. It fired once. A single pulse of red light struck the Empire's command ship. Not with heat, but with data. The command ship's systems overloaded. AI crashed, engines failed, and just like that, the heart of the fleet went cold. One by one, Empire ships began to flee. Their formation broke. Captains screamed. Soldiers begged, but there was nowhere to run. Earth's fleet didn't chase them. They let them run, because sometimes letting your enemy live with fear is stronger than killing them. From Earth's ground stations, the battle was broadcast to every nation. No editing, no special effects, just raw footage of Earth's strength. The people of Earth didn't cheer. They just nodded. They understood. This was not victory. This was a warning to the galaxy. Earth had spoken with action. It didn't roar. It whispered, and that whisper shook the stars back in orbit as the last Empire ship jumped away. Captain Aria Monroe stood on the deck of Nemesis, her voice calm, steady. "Record this message and send it to the Empire's throne," she said. "Earth does not want war, but if you bring war to our door again, we won't knock. We'll walk in." The stars blinked, Jupiter's clouds rolled, and the solar system was quiet once again, but the message had been delivered loud and clear. All eyes in the shadows. The Empire retreated, but the echoes of their defeat didn't fade. They traveled across the galaxy, carried on hidden signals and hushed voices, in markets, on mining colonies, even in the royal halls of other empires. Story spread Earth had won, but the galaxy didn't just whisper about the battle. It whispered about how Earth won, without numbers, without warnings, without fear. It was not just power. It was something deeper, and many began to wonder, was Earth really alone? In the shadows of distant galaxies, leaders of oppressed races gathered, not in open meetings, but in secret bunkers and encrypted holocalls. They had lived under the Empire's boot for centuries. Now, for the first time, they saw hope. That hope had a name: humanity. One species, the Trell, had been crushed by the Empire 500 years ago. Their cities burned, their culture erased, their children stolen, but they had survived, hiding in deep caves on moons forgotten by maps. When they saw the footage of the battle near Jupiter, they lit their ancient fires again, not for mourning, but for revenge. The Varnic, a species of builders and thinkers, had given the Empire star-lifting technology. In return, the Empire took their son. They had been silent ever since, but now they sent a message, not to the Empire, but to Earth. "We remember your kindness during the famine. We are ready to stand," because the truth was, Earth hadn't been as quiet as the galaxy believed. While the Empire ruled with fear, Earth had worked in silence, sending aid to forgotten worlds, protecting refugee ships with unmarked fighters, helping rebels escape through wormholes created by human engineers. Earth had built something the Empire couldn't detect. Not a fleet, not a weapon, but trust. Now the trust was rising, and it was powerful. On the moon of Heller Prime 12, alien leaders met in secret. Some had never spoken before. Some had even fought each other in the past. But they all had one thing in common. The enemy of their enemy had smiled like a storm. They stood before a large screen. On it, a human face appeared, an AI, eyes glowing soft blue. It spoke with calm authority. "We don't want to rule the galaxy. We only want to stop those who do." The room went silent. Then one voice replied, "Then we're ready to help." Back on Earth, Captain Aria Monroe sat in a quiet room. No alarms, no maps, no weapons. Just a long table and a screen full of alien faces. Some looked like insects, others like birds or machines, but all were listening. She leaned forward and spoke. "We will not ask you to fight our war, but if you choose to stand, know this: we'll never leave you behind." In that moment, something old died and something new began. The Empire wasn't just at war with Earth anymore. It was at war with everyone it had ever hurt. In deep space, hidden factories powered up, but they weren't building weapons. They were building hope. Shipyards owned by former slaves, engineers freed by human stealth missions. Now they worked day and night to prepare a fleet not of war, but of freedom. Meanwhile, the Empire grew paranoid. Its rulers sensed the shift. They ordered planets to lock down, citizens to remain silent. They built more ships, more weapons, but they were fighting shadows. Because they didn't know who was with Earth, or how many. Only that the darkness around them was no longer empty. On a quiet asteroid station, a young Trell child looked up at a human soldier. The child wore a necklace carved with Earth's flag. "Is it true?" she asked. "Is it true that humans protect the small?" The soldier smiled. "It's true," he said. "We protect each other no matter how far." And so the galaxy watched, some with hope, some with fear, because the war had changed. It was no longer just between Earth and the Empire. It was between the future and the past, between control and unity, between silence and the roar of rising voices. Allies were gathering. In the shadows, yes, but they wouldn't stay there for long. Asterisk Earth breaks the Empire. The Empire had always believed it was untouchable. For 10,000 years, it had crushed planets, rewritten histories, erased entire species. Its capital world, Celis Prime, was surrounded by 10 defense rings, each one armed with the most powerful weapons known to the galaxy, but none of them were built to stop what was coming. Earth did not send an invasion. It sent a message, one signal, a simple pulse of light coded with ancient language. Not a threat, not a demand, just a warning. You have one chance. The Empire ignored it. They laughed in their throne rooms, surrounded by gold and marble. They sent more ships toward Earth, more troops, more drones, but none of them reached their target. All were intercepted, disabled, turned into floating scrap, not destroyed, disarmed, and then came Project Leviathan, Earth's final answer to the Empire's pride. A ship too big to hide, too silent to track. It moved through the stars like a ghost wrapped in thunder. Its armor was layered with solar-bonded titanium. Its core engine pulsed with quantum fire. But it wasn't just a ship, it was a message carved in steel. Leviathan didn't travel with escorts. It didn't need them. When it appeared above Celis Prime, the Empire froze. Sensors failed. Systems went blind. The sky above their throne world turned dark. Not because of weapons, but because Earth had turned off the stars. Leviathan carried no bombs. Instead, it carried silence. It released waves of electromagnetic interference, enough to disable every machine in orbit. Drones fell from the sky. Warships went dead. Satellites blinked out. The planet's security grid crumbled like paper. Then came the second wave, not of soldiers, but of truth. Earth broadcast a signal across every Empire-controlled world. It showed the battles, the cruelty, the secret prisons, the burning cities. It showed children hiding in caves, rebels tortured for speaking, and then it showed Earth. Not in glory, not in fire, but in peace. People helping each other, building together, defending the weak. The galaxy listened, and for the first time, they believed. Not in Earth's weapons, but in its will. Inside the Empire's high hall, the Emperor watched in silence. His generals panicked, demanding to fire, to strike, but nothing worked. Every system had been hacked, every drone silenced. The throne was now a prison. Then Leviathan spoke, not with a voice, but with a presence. A glowing blue projection filled the hall. It was Earth's prime AI Seraphim. It looked human, but its eyes were endless. You ruled with fear, it said. We came with warning. Now we come with choice. The Emperor stood, shaking with rage. You dare threaten me on my world? Seraphim did not blink. We are not here to threaten. We are here to end the silence. Outside, the people of Celis Prime flooded the streets. They looked up at the sky and saw the Leviathan, not firing, not attacking, just watching. Then something unbelievable happened. The people cheered, not for their emperor, but for Earth across the Empire. Rebellions ignited, not with guns, but with flags. Worlds that had been silent for centuries now spoke. They refused to fight Earth. They laid down their weapons. They turned their backs on the Empire, on the desert moon of Vihal. Children painted Earth's flag on their faces. On the forest world of Lesari, former slaves walked free. On the mining planet of Kroth, workers refused to send resources to the throne world. Everywhere, the Empire was breaking not from war, but from awakening. The Emperor gave one last order: destroy the Leviathan. But his voice no longer mattered. The military didn't move. His commands echoed into silence. Because Earth had already won. Not with blood, but with truth, Leviathan turned and left. It didn't fire a single shot. But behind it, an empire fell. On Earth, Captain Aria Monroe watched the galaxy light up. New governments were forming, old powers crumbling. The stars no longer belonged to tyrants. They belonged to those who remembered what freedom felt like. The Leviathan became a legend, a ship that never needed to fight, because it carried something stronger than fear. It carried hope. The smile that shook the stars. The war was over, but the galaxy was still shaking. Not from explosions, not from weapons, but from the quiet after something unstoppable had passed. And at the center of it all stood one blue planet, Earth. Galactic Empire no longer ruled. Its banners were torn down by its own people, its thrones left empty. What was once feared had now become a memory. A warning written in the stars, but Earth did not rise to take its place. It did not claim power or demand tribute. Instead, it stepped back into the shadows, as if to say, we did what we had to do, and nothing more. In cities once chained by fear, new leaders stood chosen, not crowned. They carried symbols of peace, and in many of those symbols, there was a circle of blue and green, Earth's colors, not as rulers, but as reminders across the stars. Songs were sung in languages never heard before. Old traditions came alive again. Statues of human soldiers appeared in distant worlds, not as conquerors, but as protectors, not holding weapons, but holding out hands. The galaxy had changed, not because Earth destroyed the Empire, but because Earth had survived it on Mars. A monument was built, simple, solid, and unshakable. On its surface, only one sentence was written. We smiled, not because we wanted war, but because we were ready. People came from across the stars to see it. They didn't come to worship. They came to understand why Earth smiled in the face of death, why it stood tall when the Empire stood over it, and why it fought not for glory, but for peace. In a quiet base beneath Antarctica's ice, Captain Aria Monroe stood alone. She looked up at the stars through the glass dome above. So many stories, she whispered. A soft light flickered beside her seraphim. The AI appeared once more. And more to come, it replied. Behind them, the Leviathan was parked in silence. Its hull no longer glowing red, but pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Waiting, but at peace. Earth wasn't sleeping. It was watching, learning, smiling. Not every world was ready for peace. Not every leader had stepped down. But they all hesitated. Because now, the galaxy knew, if anyone ever tried to rise as the next empire, there would be a smile waiting for them. A smile that meant, we remember. A smile that meant, not again. On a small jungle moon, a child asked her father, "Is the story of Earth true?" The father nodded. "It is." Did they really defeat the Empire? No, he said, smiling. They made the Empire defeat itself. In the quiet corners of space, the stars looked different now. Not because they changed, but because we did. Because one planet refused to bow, and by doing so, taught the galaxy how to stand. And as ships flew across the night sky, one silent message pulsed from beacon to beacon, translated in every tongue, across every race. To those who believe they are untouchable, beware the quiet ones. Beware the ones who smile, because Earth did not roar, Earth did not beg, Earth just grinned, and the stars remembered that smile forever.